next we have Ben Houston from University of Indianapolis. When we do these speed sessions, we always like to have some other universities present. They may have some additional ideas that we don't have, and we also want to make sure you know of other opportunities or choices that there might be. IUPUI may not be for everybody. We hope it is, but it's good also to be exposed to other programs. So we have UIndy and we also have Purdue today that will be here representing and talking about a couple of topics related to the application. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to Ben.
Good afternoon, everyone. How are we doing? Hope we're all doing well. I'm going to share my screen. Thank you, Jennifer, for having me. And I'm going to switch over so that we can discuss the some 5 tips to writing your graduate personal statement and how to kind of get the best and maximize that as you are applying. I can get this to full screen. So diving right into it, I know that Katina talked a little bit about this in the previous, her previous talk, but number 1, if you have a prompt, most graduate applications will have some sort of a prompt for you to fill out. If you have a prompt, if you see that in the application, please use it. Most programs, again, will have a prompt, some don't, and they're going to vary in terms of how general or specific they are and what they're asking of you. Some more general examples of prompts that you will see on, just from my experience with both IUPUI and University of Indianapolis, are going to be things like, explain your background, your personal and professional background, what's led you to this point to apply to this program, and explain your interest in the degree. Oftentimes, though, graduate programs and review committees are looking for very specific things with their prompts. Some more specific examples are going to be, get in detail with your professional and academic experience. Why is it in your past that you see this graduate program benefiting you? If you are currently a student, if you're currently a student in a research-specific or clinical program looking at one of those graduate programs, they will often ask you questions about your research in the field, whether it's in something like human biology, ecology. Even in non-science programs, such as School of Business MBA programs, they're going to ask for what kind of projects you have done and how that ties into the program you're applying to. The simplest part about this point is make sure you review your admissions requirements thoroughly when you are getting prepared to write your personal statement. Like Katina mentioned before me, they will list those out, and you really want to make sure that you're addressing the specific points if they're asking for them. But you ask, I don't have a prompt. You may get one of those applications that doesn't have a prompt or just has a very general, more generic prompt. What do you do with that? My best advice to you there is to make it relevant and relatable to both your situation and the program itself. Again, this is where doing that homework beforehand comes into play. Your personal stories, some of your personal background are fine as long as you can clearly connect that in your narrative of your personal statement with why it's connected to the degree that you are applying for, or why it connects to the faculty or the program itself. Hitting this over the head again, do your homework, but not just in this case, the specific application requirements. Here, if you don't have a prompt, make sure you're doing your homework on the program itself, which I assume you would be doing anyway if you're seriously interested in that graduate program. But make sure to take note of things like specific expertise of faculty, the work that's being put out by your potential graduate program. Adding in those pieces and connecting it to your own story and what's brought you to that point are going to add another level of detail and expertise to your personal statement. You've got the example there that I put for you, referencing the specific research of a faculty member in the program by name, making sure that you have that, and you can connect it with some of the work that you might have already done or that you hope to do. That's going to add another level of kind of standout to your narrative versus others that keep it more generic. Again, tying back to making it relevant and relatable, don't be afraid to make it personal as long as you keep it in a professional tone and a professional setting. Graduate programs, many graduate programs, especially smaller ones, are looking at the personality fit of an applicant just as well as their academic fit. And that's one of the pieces that you can demonstrate in your personal statement by successfully carrying through an argument in a narrative format and explaining the reasons that you're interested in the program. They're looking at things like, is this applicant mature? Can they handle themselves in a professional academic setting beyond just the undergraduate level? And also getting a sense for your personality and how that can come out in your writing and your work, and how that might gel with current students in the program that are going to be your colleagues and faculty who might be your colleagues or mentors. I often like to explain personal statements for graduate programs as kind of an expanded cover letter. If you're familiar with writing a cover letter for professional job positions, the cover letters are concise, but they really are designed to give that employer a feel for who you are in a very professional way. So if you have that mindset, I think that will work wonders for you as you're developing your own personal statement for your graduate application. And again, make sure to highlight specific skills and traits that you bring to the table. Avoid generalization. That's one of the red flags in an application for a graduate program that can stand out to a committee. The example here, avoid statements like, I want to be a nurse because I like helping people, and leaving it at that without any sort of extrapolation or expansion. That's great that you love to help people. Give us more. Why? What do you like helping people with? How do you see this program, this graduate nursing program, for this example, benefiting you in your quest to help people? Again, we touched on this when I used the metaphor for a academic cover letter, essentially. Keep it concise. And again, Katina mentioned that there will be often page limits or word limits that are part of the requirements laid out for you when you apply. Make sure that you're following those. It's very crucial that if they say 2 to 3 pages and no more, or 1,500 words max, that you are able to get your point across within that limit, because that is something that graduate committees and faculty review committees will be looking at. If they say for 2 to 3 pages tops, and you expand on and on for 6, 7, 8 pages, that's great for you, but at the same time, the faculty asked for something specific for you to be able to explain in a very tight fashion why you deserve a chance to be in this program, and they'll make note of that. They only have so much time to review applications, especially for competitive, in-demand programs, and especially when it gets to the crunch time of the admissions cycle for graduate programs, and they're reviewing stacks of applications and stacks of materials. You want to make sure that you can get your case across, explain the points, the bullet points about you, your background, and your goals, and allow them to move on with the greatest impression possible of you. And again, that bottom piece, if you're an expository individual, I find this for myself when I write, I tend to not ramble, but I tend to fill certain statements or paragraphs with what is admittedly nice language to read and go through. But in a personal statement like this, for the purpose of this, that's counterintuitive, and you want to, avoid that as much as possible. Again, go back through with yourself and with others. Have somebody read through and just have them be honest with you. Is this necessary? Does this section connect to what I want to talk about? And that's fine. It's part of the writing and review process, and they're doing that to help you. The fifth piece that I want to emphasize is that, again, remember, this is your chance to argue the case for yourself, to make the case for yourself. Tying this all back together, you only get one chance at a first impression, as they say. And this is your first impression for the graduate committee to review, especially if this is a graduate program that does not have any sort of an interview process or things like that. Excuse me. Small mistakes, what seemingly might be minor mistakes at a different level, are going to be major red flags for your review committee. Things like typos, issues with grammar, and I say wrong school name here, but I have reviewed graduate applications that they've listed the wrong school. They've listed Bellarmine University, and we're the University of Indianapolis. That's a quick way to get your application not taken seriously when they see that in your statement of purpose. And last, don't be afraid to use the statement of purpose to address any potential shortcomings, maybe gaps in history, not in huge detail, but to at least address those, because that's a sign of maturity and professionalism. You can acknowledge what happened and at the same time say why you are stronger and better for it and how that might add to your experience in the program. So to quickly summarize and recap on all of this, again, if you have that prompt, use it. They're looking for specific pieces and they're asking for specific things. And if they do, they want to see it. If you don't have a prompt, go back to that relevant and relatable and make sure that you're incorporating your own research into the program, because that shows them that you're thinking ahead. That shows that you can do that kind of work and dig a little bit deeper into why you're a good fit. Make it personal professionally. Explain your story briefly as long as it connects to the purpose of the degree, to the program itself, or the expertise. Keep it concise. Watch those page limits, those word limits. Get to your point, make your point, and then move on and summarize. And throughout all of this, advocate for yourself. This is your chance to make that impression. This is your chance to argue the case. You've come this far. Why do you deserve admission to the next step, to this program? And again, I am an admissions counselor. I've been with graduate admissions at the University of Indianapolis for some time now, and just putting this in here, and thank you, Jennifer, for having me on this to be able to share in this experience. And I'm happy to take any questions related to that that you might have.
Thank you, Ben. Any questions, either unmute or put in the chat. We have a few minutes for questions. I had a call today from someone who said they asked 2 questions, like the prompts like you're talking about, but they didn't put a word limit or page limit. So she was uncertain, and I encouraged her to connect with the program and see if they did have some type of limitation on that. But
Absolutely.
I hadn't heard of that before. I know there's often prompts or essay questions they ask, or they give you some guidance, but to not have a word limit, I guess I was kind of surprised about that.
I've not encountered, so I've seen both where they have a page limit or a word limit, but you're right, I've never seen any graduate application that requires a statement that doesn't have either. But that is exactly what I would recommend, is to reach out to the program contact for that program. And that's another sign to me that a student is serious when they are taking the initiative to see, hey, you didn't specifically list this, what are you looking for?
Right. And they don't want to do the wrong thing and then get discounted. So
absolutely.
No other questions? The graduate office does offer in the fall usually a boot camp that's related to the personal statement, where you send in a personal statement ahead of time, and then we get faculty to review it, and then you go to a computer lab during the event where you actually get to work on the feedback that you got and work on another draft of your personal statement. Now that's usually an in-person event, so we're going to have to see what we're going to do this fall about it, but you will all be on my email list and we'll get invitation to whatever that ends up looking like for October or so. So just keep that in mind. Most people find that very helpful. It can be very intimidating, so understood. Okay, well, thank you, Ben.